sometimes people will want God to appear to them or to do some great miracle to prove that he exists and to get people to believe. They'll say something perhaps like, well, if God exists, why doesn't he just come down and show himself, right? And then people would believe him, right? We wouldn't have to deal with this faith stuff. But that's not how people work. And this is really clearly shown in the book of Kings with the story of Elijah. So Elijah in the book of Kings sets up pretty much the ideal test of God's existence. Okay, he prophesies a famine, okay, a drought, that it won't rain, okay, and it doesn't rain for 3 years. Okay, at the end of the 3 years, he comes to the king and he gathers all of the people. Okay, so he's prophesied this famine. The king has blamed the famine on Elijah, the prophet, and said, hey, you're the guy that's troubling Israel here, causing this famine. So people know that it's Elijah causing the famine, you know, or they know that Elijah's involved and that his prophecy has caused the famine, okay? But the king and queen worshipped the god Baal, which is a different god, not the Lord. And so Elijah got the king and he gathered all the people, gathers all the priests of Baal. There's 450 priests of Baal, and there's just him. He's the only prophet of the Lord on this trial. And he says, we're going to put up a test. We're going to see if the Lord's God. We're going to make altars here, and we'll put sacrifices on the altars, and then we'll pray to God. You pray to Baal, I'll pray to God, and whichever God brings fire and lights the fire to the altar on his own is God. Okay, and that'll be our test. And so that's what they do. And so the priests of Baal start first. There's 450 of them. They build an altar. They slay an animal. They put it on the altar, and then they start praying, and they pray all day, and they cry, and they cut themselves ritually to try to get Baal's attention, and nothing happens, of course, right? Baal is a false god. He doesn't respond by fire. They spend all day. Elijah mocks them. He's like, well, maybe Baal is asleep and you need to just talk louder. Maybe he's on the toilet or something and you need to get his attention. But Baal doesn't do anything. Then Elijah comes and he says, hey, gather everyone together. Okay, he builds his altar. He slays his bullock. He puts it on the altar. He says, okay, I want you to drench this altar in water. So they come and they drench the altar in water. They dig a trench around the altar. They fill that with water. And then Elijah prays. God sends down fire from heaven, and it burns up not only the sacrifice and the wood, but it also even burns up the stones of the altar. Okay? A clear test in front of all the people. Very clearly, God is God. The people admit that God is God, and they kill the priests of Baal, and then rain comes, right? So you would think, oh, look, this miracle has convinced the people. But when Jezebel, who's the queen, hears about it, she says, I'm going to kill you, Elijah. I'm going to kill you like you had the priests of Baal killed. And Elijah goes into fleeing, and all the people stop believing. And the very next chapter, Elijah has to go into the wilderness. In Kings 19, Elijah is going into the wilderness, and he's under a juniper tree, and he's like, why in the world did that not work? 3 years, okay, of drought broken, right? Miraculously, God has brought rain again on the earth. God clearly showed, I set up a test in front of everybody, and God clearly showed that he's God, okay? Sent down fire from heaven. And then all the people just turn the back, and they won't go against Jezebel. They would rather the political authority, saying, hey, no, it's punishable by death to believe in God. They They won't go against political authority, and so they don't believe in God. Their fear motivated their belief and their practice a lot more than their logic, a lot more than what they saw with their eyes. It's what they would rather have an easy life than believe. And I think that happens lots today. It becomes inconvenient to believe. You get social pressure to believe. Elijah is very distressed about this, right? He's like, I'm the only prophet of the Lord left. People are trying to kill me. What am I going to do? God, you might as well just kill me. I don't think I'm doing anything here. Even when we perform these miracles, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. And so God, in 1 Kings chapter 19, he tries to illustrate this point to Elijah. He sends a great earthquake, and he sends a great wind, and he sends a great fire. But he's not in any of those. And afterward, he sends a still small voice. And to me, that shows that God and belief in God, you don't find God in these big miraculous things. Even if God were to come down and to say, hey, I'm here. This is me. People would still believe what they wanted to believe. They would still say, oh, it's unpopular to believe in God. Oh, going to church, like no one believes these institutions nowadays, or oh, that's these books written by old men to keep me down, or whatever it is. That's not why people believe. People believe because they choose to believe. They want to believe because they're willing to listen to a still small voice of God and follow that. And that's more important to them than being popular and having an easy life, or even facing government persecution. So those are my thoughts. It's not miracles that convert. It's your choice. It's your fears and your decision whether to listen to those fears or listen to God. Would you rather listen to God and choose to follow God? Or would you rather be popular and have an easy life? And paradoxically, when you do listen to God, at least nowadays, lots of times your life is easier. It's at least more at peace. It's at least you can live with yourself better. And you can feel forgiveness, and you can have inner peace. You might not be richer, but you might not be richer monetarily, but you'll be richer spiritually, and you will feel better for it if you follow God. And so not only will your life be better, and you'll have, of course, eternal salvation, but you'll know that you're doing what's right. But most people aren't like that. They'd rather follow their fears instead.